with the kind of life that they led. Lincoln was extremely dissatisfied and wanted to get out, wanted to move up.
Historian Michael Burlingham has been investigating the psychology behind Lincoln's early life.
Well, the origins of Lincoln's ambition, I think, are rooted in a sense of inferiority. That Lincoln was quite self-conscious about being a country bumpkin. He didn't want to be a farmer as his father was. He didn't want to be a carpenter as his father was. He didn't want to live in the rural areas as his father did. So his initial ambition was to leave that world.
He achieves this through reading extensively.
He was one of the great autodidacts when it came to education. He taught himself an astonishing amount.
Through applying this acquired knowledge, he escapes his rural beginnings and enters politics. But his pursuit of public life is not purely for altruistic reasons. As Burlingham reveals, his motivations appear much more personal.
His ambition, I think, at that time was not so much focused on a particular ideology, but it was just winning popularity. And then this is not the case just with Lincoln, but many people go into political life as a way of enhancing their sense of self-esteem. Winning elections and giving speeches and being applauded helps to build up a sense of self-worth and self-confidence, and I think Lincoln is a classic example of it.
Lincoln's first political triumph comes early at the age of 25. He is elected to the Illinois state legislature in 1834, and he goes on to run a successful legal practice as well. This young, ambitious politician and lawyer is a far cry from the great statesman he will one day become. Lincoln, as a president, will be known for his even temper and empathy. But 25 years before becoming president, the young Lincoln could be quite different.
The most unattractive quality in Lincoln that I've discovered is a tendency on his part as a young man, as a young politician, to engage in cruelty. That is, frontier politics, as it was practiced in his day, involved a great deal of personal ridicule and sarcasm. In his 20s and his 30s, he tended to be a low-road politician.
Lincoln uses his quick-wittedness and humor to caricature his opponents, causing hilarity and embarrassment in equal measure.
There was a kind of arrogance in some of these pseudonymous newspaper articles that he wrote in the 1830s and 1840s, satirizing political opponents.
While such tactics may prove very effective in a frontier state like Illinois, they were hardly suitable for the presidency. At some point in his adult life, Lincoln clearly changes. Historians believe that one event contributes greatly to the shift in Lincoln's behavior and personality.
Once he so insulted a political opponent that he was challenged to a duel.
In 1842, James Shields, a victim of some of Lincoln's cutting remarks, calls for a physical contest to defend his honor.
The challenger and Lincoln went out to a dueling site outside of Illinois. Lincoln, as the challenged party, was able to choose weapons, and the gentleman who challenged him to a duel was much shorter than Lincoln. And Lincoln specified that the duel would be fought with swords, that it would be fought in a limited space in which he could not move out of, and a dividing line which they could not cross. So Lincoln could have stood on his side of the dividing line and turned his opponent into steak tartare with his sword while the opponent flailed at him and was unable to reach him.
Under these terms, Shields stands little chance of victory. But at the last moment, wiser heads manage to talk them out of it, and Lincoln apologizes. The incident kicks off a period of great personal growth. Culminating at the age of 40, in his departure from mainstream politics for 5 years.
During that period, which seems on the surface of it to be very uneventful, beneath the surface, Lincoln went through a tremendous period of psychological growth and became a high-road statesman rather than a low-road political hack.
His return to politics and the reasons behind that comeback again reveal the deep-rooted effect his early life has on his political and personal viewpoints.
And what brought him back in 1854 was the Kansas-Nebraska Act.
The U.S. Congress passes an act that recognizes the new territories of Kansas and Nebraska. It also permits settlers in these regions to use slaves. The act is controversial because all the territories were originally intended to be slave-free. Lincoln feels compelled to step back into politics. The speeches he gives in opposition to the act show how far Lincoln's personal development has come since that day of the duel over 10 years ago.
Right now we're in the Hall of Representatives at the old state capitol in Springfield. Lincoln's celebrated House Divided speech in June of 1858 was delivered in this very hall at the podium just behind us here. It was the opening paragraphs in which he said, "A house divided against itself cannot stand. I believe this government cannot endure permanently half slave and half free. I do not expect the Union to be dissolved. I do not expect the house to fall, but I do expect it will cease to be divided."
From speeches like these, his eloquence